Hello and welcome to the Reetin Entertainment Podcast, episode 445 for March 31st, 2024. That's it, 2024. It's Easter Sunday, and we don't celebrate. Well, I don't celebrate. Do you celebrate?
I do not celebrate Easter Sunday, no.
You don't. Do you celebrate the next day by going out and buying a bunch of candy?
I used to. I feel like nowadays, even when you go into stores and you're like, give me that discount, because like I'm one of the 10 people in the world who actually love like the chicks, like
Oh, the
the
Peeps.
marshmallow peeps. Yeah, that's what they're called. I fucking love those. So
Yeah.
normally the day after, I almost said Thanksgiving. Normally the day after Easter is like, hell yeah, I'm gonna get my snacks on. But I feel like even nowadays they're like, no, if you want that, it's only like 5% off. And it's like,
That's lame.
nah.
You're like, it's 100% off, and you just walk out of the store.
That's usually what I do. Yeah.
I
I
think I mentioned it on. I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast or if I was just talking to you, but I accidentally shoplifted something before. Um, like a couple of years ago, I went in and there was no way for me to scan in the cinnamon rolls that I had picked up, and I looked all over for somebody to help me like scan it in. I couldn't get it um on the register, like it just wouldn't pop up, and it was self-service, and I was just like, looks like I'm getting free cinnamon rolls. So I just put it in the bag and left.
Jesus is watching you from heaven like that was the test and you failed, my son.
I
I
passed. I
can't come
passed that
back
test.
now.
I passed the test. So what? First off, where can we find you?
First off, hello, my name is Connor, the Cyberpunk Monk. I am the co-host today. You can find me, you can find Aroa, you can find Nathan, all of our relevant social media links at aroa.website. I know that sounds like fun, but you just punch it into your URL, you'll find it. A couple of those links I'd like to draw your attention to are Clinton's Core Classics, a Rise of the Rune Lords First Edition Actual Play podcast. That's the first podcast I ever worked on, and it's pretty good. It's all right
After
if I do say so myself.
after season 2, it's pretty good.
After I took over as the editor, it gets pretty all right.
I don't
And
know how much editing the other guy was doing previously, but from what I understand, not a lot.
not enough.
And when we separated from him, I remember he was like, "Oh, you guys can I'll still edit the podcast, but you have to pay me." And we're
Like,
just like,
no.
No, no, we're all
Why would we
right."
pay for that? Like, there is a bare minimum of effort that you can put into a project that was not being put into this project.
Yeah. But anyway,
And it's a lot better now. And if Pathfinder or D&D or whatever isn't your thing, you should check out Shadowrun Bug City Blues, a 6th World Edition actual play podcast. I work on that all the time. It gets a lot of compliments.
a lot of compliment.
It gets compliments, plural.
And then, of course, you can find me, Nathan Reigns Ruth, everywhere at Reetin, mainly Twitch, twitch.tv/Reetin. I'm there most nights, 6 p.m. Pacific time to 9 p.m.-ish Pacific time, Monday through Friday. Sometimes I take days off because,
You're a
stuff
sleepy
happens.
baby.
I'm sleepy and I've been working a lot, okay? Like, I got back from Germany and was immediately thrust into, we have to set up a 2 new clinics. Well, a new clinic and then a reopening clinic. So like tomorrow I'm waking up early and going over to a town to help set up a clinic. So it's very busy, very, very busy. But what games have you played this week, Connor?
Thinking back to it, not including things like Pathfinder, the tabletop game, Helldivers. I played a whole lot of Helldivers. That game sure is good.
I
Like,
hear.
I
Played it a
haven't
bit.
caught the rabbit of the stick on that yet, or the carrot on the stick. That is, I haven't caught the rabbit on a stick.
Yeah.
It's good. Like, as far as live service games, there's a lot of things that I shouldn't like about this game, but they just do it in such a way that makes sense. And
Yeah.
if you want to hear me sing the praises of this game, go listen to the hour-long episode we did about it.
Now, 2 weeks ago, that was 442. Well, 3 weeks ago, I guess. So 442 Freedom Cast. That's the one you'll want to listen to. Did you play anything else, or was it just that?
I'm trying to think, like, no, I don't think that this cookie clicker count. I don't think so.
I mean, I think a road would count it, but I wouldn't.
I'm like on the last 5% of the achievements left to get, which I think a lot of people don't get that far in cookie clicking escapades. Like, it's not nothing.
Yeah.
For as much of it is literally absolutely nothing, it's not nothing.
It's a good like time sink, and I think that's
It's a
what a lot of
good, oh
people,
boy, watch the bar grow big.
and that's what a lot of people. That's what MMOs are, right? Like just
For a lot of people, yeah, wait for the bar to go big.
just
Do it
trying to
all
get your
over again.
bar, just trying to get the numbers to be higher, and then you get your numbers as high as they can go, and then they release a new expansion, and you have bigger numbers to achieve.
Do it all over again. All that progress you made doesn't mean shit because the first instance you run is going to make all your gear obsolete. And
Exactly.
it feels bad. It feels real bad, man.
It does. Like
Um,
I
like,
remember when I had a bunch of friends who were playing World of Warcraft, and they told me that they're like, oh yeah, but like once you get the new expansion, you just like first place you go, and they're trying to like sell it as a positive that like greens will drop, and it'll be better than the gear you already had from the last expansion. And I'm like, well then why would I want to invest time in it?
right, why?
Like
Because now you could play more of this game that we want you to play more. Like,
yeah,
there's this disconnect in the game industry where I don't understand why I need to be incentivized to play more. Like, I'm trying to find the best way to say this. I feel like games sometimes the reward that they give you is you play less of the game overall.
yeah.
Like, no, you don't need to grind. Just buy this expansion. We'll give you better gear to start off at. It's like,
Or Dark Age of Camelot. I had a friend who complained that like after you got a max level character, you could then like buy max level characters. So instead of like having to play through the game, you could just create a character and get level 60 right away, or whatever the level was in Daok.
I
Um,
don't get it. Like, there's a fundamental problem in game design. And I'm gonna go back to Helldivers 2. It just doesn't seem to have this problem. Like, if you asked me not what games have I been playing or what games have I excited to play, I don't even know what I'd tell you. Space Marines 2, maybe, like half a year from now.
yeah.
There's no one really rocking it in the same way that uh, Arrowhead Studios pulled it off.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna move on to me now. I've
Yeah,
been
do it.
enjoying playing some games. First off, the game I played on Monday it's like Harvest Moon, so it was okay for what it was, but I don't like it. It's called Palia.
By the time that I went to go jump into your stream, you had already given up on it for the night.
Yeah, I was feeling. Did I end that stream earlier? I thought I went the full 3 hours, but
One of the streams you ended it early. It might not have been that one.
yeah, there were a couple
Sorry if it
streams.
wasn't.
That's okay. But Palia it's an MMORPG, but it's like Harvest Moon. So you're like building your house and growing crops and fishing and all that. Which, as we know, is not my type of game. Like, I can enjoy those games for a little while, and then I'm just like, okay, cool. I want to do literally anything other than manage my farm. And that's basically what that game is. It's not bad. It's on Steam if you want to try it out, if you like those type of games, and it's free to play. So there's, you don't have to put any money unless you want to, I guess.
Anytime I think I want to play a game like that, what I really end up actually wanting to do is playing Minecraft again. Like 9 out of 10 times, it's always, oh, I want some creative No, you want to build something in Minecraft. I want to do a farm. No, you want to farm in Minecraft.
Yeah, I mean, Palia is certainly not a terrible game in that sense, but again, it's not one that I will probably spend much time playing. I remember the first time I saw somebody playing Harvest Moon, I went to a friend's house in high school, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's pretty addictive. Just like checking your cows and making sure your farm's up to date." And I was just like, "Uh huh, this looks awful."
Didn't
And
people say
just
the exact same shit about Farmville?
yeah,
The
probably.
Facebook app game, which I mean, I understand we're probably splitting hairs at this point.
Yeah, Farmville, Farming Simulator, all that jazz. But then Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I had continued to play some of that Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, and that game is really good. Still really
You're
good.
still liking it?
Yeah, I keep getting like slightly further in, and like for each character you have, that's a side character. Um, you can go to specific locations and have like little conversations with them, which will increase your bond. And so every time a new character comes in, all those little dots show up on the map, and I'm like, well, now I have to get rid of the dots
Yep.
And
Side
then
quest.
yeah, and then uh there's a point where you're playing as at the beginning of the game you're playing as Ichiban, who is the character from Yakuza Like a Dragon. And then you separate like partway through the game, you start playing as Kiryu, and Kiryu can go to specific spots and reminisce about other game, like things that happened in other games. So things I never knew happened because I never played the other games, but like Earl would love because he's played all of them. And so like he's just like, oh, I remember when I went here with my friend, and then we beat up a bunch of gangsters.
I,
And
I,
there's
I feel
like
like 99% of those would just be like, I remember that time I was doing something, then that asshole Majima jumped me.
fucking Majima. Actually, you do talk about Majima.
I
Um,
believe, I bet you talk about Majima a lot.
the one I remember was he's just like, Majima. He's a little crazy and we fought sometimes, but he's always been there in the end, or something like that. Um, but yeah, you go and you reminisce about a bunch of things, and you're filling up a board. And I have 2 of the boards filled out, and there's one more board to fill out that has like 30 more spots to go to, or something like that. And then I know after when I unlock the next like chapter, it's gonna have a bunch of more like dots for me to go clear. But that being said, I'm having fun. I'm having fun with the game. It's good, and also unlocking those dots does increase Kiryu's power. So it's not just like, oh, you're not just unlocking memories or getting money or getting points. Like certain aspects of Kiryu grow when you get those dots unlocked, and so it makes it so you want to do it so that like their numbers go up, so that you
Man, I
punch
wish
people.
I liked fighting games a little more because I adored Yakuza Like a Dragon so gosh
But
darn
that's
much.
that's
Like,
what this is.
I know that's what Infinite Wealth is.
Yeah,
It's like a dragon slash Dragon Quest-esque more than it is a fighting game. But like you said, there's all those sequences where they're talking about the past games. You're like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking. Like,
yeah.
these games are all such a delight. I want to experience all these stories. Just no other game really knocks it out of the park like they do. As far as like, you think you're going in for a wacky time, and then you're gonna get punched in the gut with an emotional sob story.
Yeah, there was one. It's always funny to me. Just the random stuff. He's like, I am a Yakuza. I fight, and I'm the Dragon of Dojima. And then you go to a reminiscent thing, and he's like, man, I love those pocket racers. I love
I'm
racing those little RC cars.
I am a criminal in a organized crime syndicate. I'm also Japan's #1 stock car racer.
It's great. And then I was gonna play some Helldivers on Friday, but I made a bad decision, and that decision is I'm gonna cut back on caffeine. So I was like, I'm gonna stop drinking caffeine for the end of March and the entire month of April. So I was really tired because I didn't have any caffeine to keep me awake. Um, and so I was just like, I could stay and play some Helldivers, but it's not gonna be good gameplay. It's not gonna be good streaming. It's gonna be me sitting there being like, man, I want to go to bed.
Online. Oh no, I'm in. Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
But I'm already feeling more awake and stuff. I guess it takes
Do you think it was just jet lag, or?
I think it's partially jet lag. I know my stomach's been ever since Germany. My stomach's been a little messed up, and I'm not exactly sure why. So I was hoping that cutting back on artificial sweeteners and caffeine would also help my stomach out a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see what happens throughout the month of April. But now we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about some news stories.
Oh yeah.
First things first, Gearbox has been purchased.
And the least surprising headline of the year.
Yeah, so Embracer Group, Embracer's been kind of selling off a lot of their gaming franchises or gaming companies that they had. Like,
it's funny you say that. I was gonna mention it's been a while since they've had a hit. They're kind of due for one.
Yeah. No, you quiet you. Sorry, there's a cat yelling at me right now. Yeah. So Embracer, what all companies did they own?
If you give me a
There's a
second, I
lot.
can Google that. But they used to have a lot. Yeah.
I know they have like quite a few, and I know Daybreak is one of them, which is like the people who make EverQuest, and they used to make Star Wars before, like Star Wars Galaxies, but then that died, and then they made H1Z1. Uh,
Do you, do you want the list, and I could just list it off until it gets funny?
just yeah, I guess.
So Embracer, as of it doesn't say as of which, I'm guessing as of very recently, owns Gearbox, Coffee Stain Studios, Saber Interactive, THQ Nordic, 4A Games, Amplifier Games, Koch Media, Zen Studios, Asmodee, Black Forest Games, Dark Horse Media, Darksiders, which I think they just make the Darksiders games, I guess. Uh, Deca Games, Easy Brain, Gunfire Games, New World Interactive, Piranha Bytes, Time Splitters, Tripwire, Tuxedo Labs, Bugbear Pieces, Tar Steer, and Experiment 101 AB. Some of these I've actually never heard of, to be honest.
Yeah,
Those
me too.
first like three rows, most of those I've at least heard of.
But yeah, they own a lot of studios, and I think what they were doing for a while was just buying up as many studios as they could, and then seeing what they could pump out and make some money off of. And it did not work, apparently.
Oh,
Uh,
I looked up the full list. It's
please,
too many to list.
I was
It's
gonna
like
say, please don't.
111 studios.
This is coming from me, who like in various podcasts, you're like, you're not gonna read through the whole list. I'm like, yes, I am. Please
No,
don't.
this is too many.
um,
That being said, that's a big umbrella.
but yeah, they just sold Gearbox to Take-Two Interactive for $460 million, which I would say if it was a few years ago, I would say maybe that's a little low. But as you said, Gearbox hasn't put out a hit in a while.
It's just a shame. Like, it's a bummer that Borderlands. Okay, well, let's address the elephant in the room. Borderlands is their cash crop, and it's a
Yeah,
shame that they kept on trying to milk that after it died. Like
like
Borderlands, the pre-sequel, Borderlands 3, the Tiny Tina stuff, all of that just kind of been it's like, oh, what are we gonna do to do better, Handsome Jack? No, it's Handsome Jack. No, there's twins. It's
no, 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 no.
they're
What
all
happened?
just
What
go on.
happened is they had Borderlands 2 with Handsome Jack, and they're like, oh no, we need Handsome Jack in this. The pre-sequel, he's a good guy now.
They made too good of a character, and they're like, fuck, we can't top this.
No, yeah, I mean, and it was like that sense of humor was great, but yeah, they kind of were just trying to make the same character over and over again, and it didn't work. I played Borderlands 3. Actually, that's I think the only Borderlands game I ever beat is Borderlands 3, and it was all right. And the only reason I beat it was because I wasn't playing with anyone else, because I was just like, I'm just gonna go through the story and not play it with anyone else. Uh, and it was all right, but it wasn't as good and as funny as Borderlands 2. But also, I think that might be partially because we've already experienced that joke over and over again, and they're milking that joke over and over again. If maybe if somebody had played Borderlands 3 first, they would think it was really funny. If that makes
But
sense.
who in their right mind starts the Borderlands series with 3?
I know.
Like, I know
Uh,
going back to 1 is hard, but I mean, if you're going to be playing these games, you could probably just play 2 and
yeah. So
like you wouldn't get whatever.
Take Two has got Gearbox, which includes Borderlands, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which I guess is different, Risk of Rain, Homeworld, Duke Nukem, and Brothers in Arms. It also says here, per the agreement, Embracer Group will retain Gearbox Publishing, which will then be renamed, and the publishing rights to the Remnant franchise, Hyperlight Breaker, and others, as well as Lost Boys Interactive, Captured Dimensions, and Cryptic Studios, including Neverwinter Online and Star Trek Online. Which I didn't know that Cryptic Studios was purchased, but that doesn't surprise me. Because I believe they used to be owned by NCSoft.
Now that you say that, I guess I'm trying to think what titles has Cryptic Soft really even made.
They made City of Heroes.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, so the big ones are City of Heroes, Neverwinter, and Star Trek Online. And I believe at least Star Trek Online, and of course City of Heroes back in the day, were released under the NCSoft banner. and NCSoft is a South Korean company. So part of the reason why like City of Heroes died was because while City of Heroes was doing well in the United States, it wasn't doing well in South Korea. And so NCSoft was like, well, we don't care if you're not doing well in South Korea, we're going to shut you down. So
I did they make Guild Wars?
I
Like I
don't
probably could
know.
just Google this. What have they made lately?
I
What, like Star Trek Online wasn't a recent game. I feel like that was like a decade ago, wasn't it?
it was over a decade ago now. It's like
Yeah,
2011, 2012.
like okay, so they got bought out. Then what happened? Like, are
Yeah,
they just owned and they're not doing anything?
that seems to be the case. Yes.
That sucks.
Yeah. So yes, it says Embracer Group plans to use the sale to reduce net debt, lower cash earn out obligations, and cut down on capital expenditures. I mean, Take-Two, I like they own quite a few gaming franchises that I think do pretty well. So I am not mad about the sale. I would rather it be Take-Two that owns it than Embracer. Um, yeah, Take-Two has BioShock, now Borderlands, Civilization, Grand Theft Auto, Mafia, Max Payne, WWE 2K series apparently,
I mean,
uh,
those are a lot of heavy hitters. Those aren't
and
insignificant titles.
and XCOM.
Yeah, like that is a cash crop. I know
Yeah,
people who buy every single I know people who buy every single XCOM game that gets released.
is that you?
It's not me, but it very
Oh,
well could be.
but yeah. So Take-Two now owns Gearbox. Hopefully that means we'll see better development or more development on some of this stuff. Probably gonna. I think they have announced that they're working on the next Borderlands game already. Hopefully it's good. It probably won't be.
It probably won't be. It's probably just going to be the more of a butt stallion.
Yeah, more butt stallion stuff. But yeah. Speaking of butts,
Don't you like my segue there?
thank you. Speaking of butts, Twitch has banned butt streams.
I feel like there was a golden age for this, and that golden age lasted like 2 weeks.
I guess I don't know. I
It
never
all
experienced
started
it.
when they were like, "Yeah, you could do hot tub streams. I guess that's fine."
So it's hard. Like I stream a lot, right? And I get not a lot of people viewing my streams. Every once in a while I have, like an uptick depending on the game or whatever's happening. But it's hard. You have thousands of people who are streaming, tens of thousands of people who are streaming, and only a limited audience. So a lot of the audience is going to go to the big streamers like Amaranth or Ninja or whoever the big people are right now. However, what people will do is they'll find ways to elevate their stream. Uh, you know, and not having a personality, it's really hard to find ways to elevate your stream. So what you have to do is you do hot tub streams, right? Like you get a bunch of people in scantily clad outfits and you're in a hot tub. And the one of the ways that they have figured out to do it is to do a green screen. I have a green screen. I use a green screen all the time. Found out that people were doing this with they would wear a green bra or green panties and have the camera on the bra and or panties showing the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the
That's the
meta.
stream.
That's the stream. So I never, unfortunately, I didn't even know about this. So we weren't able to experience this ourselves. I apologize, Connor.
We'll get him next time, buddy.
We'll get him next time. But yeah, they updated that pretty quick. So I actually looked. If you go scroll down, you can see what this person is doing. I don't know who this streamer is, but she is wearing very tight underwear that I assume are green or blue, and has the camera pointed at her butt so you can see her butt and her legs, but then the gameplay is keyed out so that you can see the gameplay where her butt would be.
Man, I tell you, this is just despicable. As soon as I'm done watching this for my research purposes, I'm going to
Very, very,
maybe watch it again for extra notes.
yeah. Um, it says here from a post from Twitch support, our community guidelines are designed to help make Twitch a welcoming place. Content on Twitch is always evolving, and we want to make sure our rules work as intended and keep up with emerging behaviors. When needed, we make updates to our rules to capture those shifts in. Give me a second, I gotta actually load the tweet. Capture those shifts in behavior. And so it's clear to the community what is allowed. Starting on Friday, March 29th, content that focuses on intimate body parts for a prolonged period of time will not be allowed. We've included additional detail and definitions on our community guidelines linked below. I like to read this as if, like, you're a disappointed father. Where you're like, come on, guys. Like, you fucking know.
We can't have advertisers give us money if this is the stuff on our front page. You're gonna scare them away.
Not even that. It's just like, these streamers knew that, like, technically it might be allowed, but, like, the mods aren't going to be happy with it. And it's going to get banned eventually. And so it's just like, come on, guys. Like, fucking now we have to write this into the TOS. It's bullshit.
What is the end game here? Like, oh, I'm gonna get 1,000,000,000 subscribers for one day, and then they're all gonna drop off because I either do this every day, or they rule it out with their terms of service upgrades. Like, it just doesn't seem that sustainable. Like, alternatively, if this is just how you advertise for your OnlyFans or whatever, like,
Yeah, that's
fuck,
true.
I guess. But
well, like, I remember there was a picture that was posted in my Discord where, like, Amaranth was streaming, right? And she just had, like, her blanket suggestively put on her private area while she was playing games. And I was just like, yep, that's the meta. That's how certain people are able to get. And I have nothing against Amaranth, but Twitch will then see things like this and be like, we have to update our TOS because we clearly, as you said, like, certain advertisers aren't going to like that suggestive content, especially since we have people that are 13 years and older, 13 to 17 watching this, and they can't be seeing stuff like this.
The thing that baffles me the most is just like, if that's really the content you were looking for, it exists out there. You could go on to fucking Pornhub or whatever. I'm sure there's probably people who are just like, I'm going to play a game. Also, here's my butt. You could see me play the game, but also my butt is like, and it wouldn't need to. It's not going to scare off the advertising hose.
Unfortunately, that site doesn't exist anymore. I forget what it was called. There was a website that was like Twitch, but also
I thought you were talking about Pornhub. I was like, well, God, what happened?
Yeah, that exists. But there was another site. I forget what the name of it was. Plexstorm, where it was. Yes, it was Twitch. Like, you were supposed to go there and play games, but you could also have tiers for adult content. And so people could, like, donate, like, tip their bits or whatever to see your bits and all that jazz.
I hope you're proud of that one.
I was, I came up with that on the spot, and I'm pretty proud of it. We're going to move on to our next story. This one's about Oregon. Yeah, good things happening in Oregon. We apparently have signed one of the best right to repair laws in the country.
Now you just need to repair your white supremacy problem.
We don't have that in Oregon, really. Like,
do you guys not?
So there is a narrative that is popping up saying that, but not really. It's one of those. It's one of those. Oh, hey, you have a, like, there are white supremacists all over, but it's not like not all over the state, but all over the country. And
Illinois famously has goddamn Nazis.
They're focusing on, like, one very small portion of people in Portland. Anyway, what just happened? This is from TechSpot. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek has signed into law a landmark right to repair bill that outlaws the controversial practice of parts pairing in electronic devices. The law is similar in nature to existing legislation in New York, California, and Minnesota, but goes further by banning the use of software locks that prevent users and third-party repair shops from swapping out faulty parts with new ones. Awesome. I think you agree that's awesome.
Yeah, like no brainer.
Yeah. So if you don't know what that is, any listeners here that might be listening, basically what happens is, let's say your screen breaks on your iPhone, and you take it to a third-party repair shop not authorized by Apple, and they replace that screen. There have been times where certain parts then will stop working, like the fingerprint scanner will stop working. And it will like say, oh, you have an unsupported device or whatever. And so you can't then use that feature. What this bill is doing is saying that that would be illegal in Oregon. It's following the signing of SB 1596. Oregon became the fourth state to have a comprehensive right to repair law that applies to a number of consumer devices, such as phones, laptops, and smartwatches. However, it doesn't include many other types of digital equipment like video game consoles, medical devices, HVAC systems, motor vehicles, etc. In addition, the law only applies to devices sold in and after 2025, meaning gadgets that are currently available on the market are not covered by the new regulations. That sucks that they're going to wait until 2025, but
Progress is progress.
it's something. It's way better than what other states have been doing, which is nothing at all, or pretending that they want to do a right to repair thing. And then Apple's like, no, we're good. We're going to start selling our parts on iFixit. Just do not create a law. Please do not make this a law, because if we make it a law, that might be slightly bad for our business. And instead of having $100 billion available to us, we might only have $99 billion. And that would be a real shame.
What would we say to the shareholders, the investors?
Fuck them.
Fuck them, yeah.
That's what I say to most shareholders and
If,
investors.
if that's how you make your living, you are a parasite.
Exactly. It says, while Apple may be crying foul, Consumer Reports and iFixit have expressed satisfaction with the new law. In a statement, the former said that it hopes the new law would make it easier and less expensive for consumers to fix their broken devices while reducing the amount of e-waste going into landfills. On its part, iFixit claimed that independent repair shops will be the biggest winners now because they will finally be able to fight back against the increasing speed bumps and roadblocks that manufacturers, including Apple, have put in their way. Now, have you ever watched Louis Rossmann?
Not ringing a bell, no. If I have, I don't know the name.
He does YouTube videos. He used to own a repair shop in New York, but he has since moved to a different state. I believe it's Texas. But he would constantly complain about Apple's practices for this, or like there would be like one little piece that needed to be replaced, and somebody would take it into an Apple repair shop, the Genius Bar or whatever, and they'd be like, "Oh, you need to buy a whole new computer," and Louis Rossmann would be like, "No, you just have to replace this one piece," and just those practices are shady and bad, and it creates a bad way where like every couple of years you have to throw away your phone because something breaks and you can't get it repaired. And if you do want to get it repaired, it's going to cost more than the cost of a brand new phone.
It's just not sustainable. Like, if every single person needs to literally throw out their phone, like, do you guys have the recycling part of this scrapped in? Because not everyone's going to actually properly recycle their devices.
They've said that they would, right? Like a few years ago, they showed off their demonstration. They're like, "Oh, look, we have this robot that will take apart the phones and it'll be recyclable and blah blah blah." But that, I mean, it hasn't really done it. They haven't really done anything, and it doesn't really help. And the biggest part, of course, is like batteries are just a huge waste when you're not able to.
They don't last forever.
They
like,
don't.
it burns out. Oh, this is now a paperweight, a very expensive potentially with these materials aren't becoming any less rare.
Yeah, yeah. And they do have a new lithium mine that they found. But the unfortunate part is that part of it, well, the unfortunate part for capitalists is that it's in a Native American reservation. Part of it is. And so they have to get the Native Americans approval to start actually mining that lithium. And or and this may shock you, they may just ignore the Native Americans and do it anyway.
What?
I know, I know,
When has
I
that
know.
ever historically happened?
I know it's
Every
shocking.
single time.
Every oh man, here, this is your land. Wait, there's gold there? Whoopsie doozles. What we meant to say is fuck you.
What we meant to say is, do you know what the sound of a rifle makes when you pointed at something? Yeah, get the fuck off.
Yeah.
Keep going. This is
But
historically, like, actually how it happened.
yeah, it's sad. It's actually I heard some
Depression.
stories about some old like silver mines that were like that, where people would be like, "No, I own this part of the land," and the judge was like, "Okay, well, you have to go prove it somehow," and so they went to go prove it, and they were met with people with rifles, and it's like, "Oh, I guess you guys own this land now." That's what happened, and that happens a lot. Anyway, we have a last news story, and it's about capitalism being bad, and Microsoft saying that capitalism is bad. Well, one person from Microsoft.
I don't disagree with what they're saying, though.
Yeah, PC. This is from PC Gamer, and we're gonna read part of this story here. It says after a lot of wrangling with regulators, Microsoft recently spent $69 billion to acquire Activision Blizzard, after which it almost immediately cut 1,900 jobs across the gaming business. Not great news for anyone, unless perhaps you own Microsoft stock. In an interview with Polygon about the driving forces behind layoffs at Microsoft and across the industry, Xbox boss Phil Spencer pointed his finger at capitalism in general. The problem, according to Spencer, is a lack of growth across the video game industry as a whole. It says when you have an industry that is projected to be smaller next year in terms of players and dollars, and you get a lot of publicly traded companies that are in the industry that have to show their investors growth, because why else does somebody own a share of somebody's stock if it's not going to grow? That side of the business then gets scrutinized, and it is the cost side. Because if you're not going to grow the revenue side, then the cost side becomes challenged. I've spoken about this before. I hate capitalism. I
Got some
think,
flaws.
yeah. And one of the big things was when I first started my first IT job, and we went to a meeting, and they're like, "Okay, we had some great growth this year. We made good profits. What we want you to do is we want you to raise up sales by 20% this year on the sales department. But we want each section of the company to cut their costs by 4%. And I was like, but we made you profits last year with the budgets that we currently have. You should be growing the budgets, not lowering them. Like it doesn't make sense to lower the budgets if we're you want to bring up 20% more sales. We're going to have to like have the budget grow somehow and not just like try to randomly cut shit.
And for all of these companies that think this is a sustainable plan, I hope them a very pleasant die.
Yeah. And so I walking back to my office, and it was just the IT team there was myself and my boss. And I asked my boss, I was like, how are we going to cut our budget by 4%? And his reply was, I'm going to shut off the servers for an hour and see if they give a shit about 4%.
Uh-huh. That's a good answer. That's a good fucking answer.
And so we did not shut off the servers for an hour, but we also did not cut our budget, which was pretty good, great. And I don't like that. I don't like that. And I understand with like I don't disagree with Phil Spencer saying that the companies don't look at people. They don't look at like the video games or the artistic value or anything like that. What they look at is money. And we made, let's say we made $100 million last year. Next year, we want to make $105 million, which to me seems weird. Like if you're making $100 million a year over year, that seems really good. But they can't say if they do, we made $100 million this year and we made $100 the next year. The investors are going to be like, well, why didn't you make $105 million?
Maybe fuck the investors.
I I generally agree. Well, actually, let me fucking I was obviously way off. It says Microsoft, for the record, generated $211 billion in revenues in 2023.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah. And more than $88 billion in operating income. So they made a pretty good amount of money, but it doesn't seem sustainable to me to consistently like need more and more growth. Something's got to give. And unfortunately, what they do is instead of saying, hey, maybe we could limit our growth so that we only make $200 billion next year, they say, no, we're going to lay off 2,000 people because that's how you do it. Or what Mitt Romney would do. He was kind of a hatchet man for the companies he would go to. And he would go into different companies and they'd be like, okay, well, how do we get, our profits up? And he's like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to fire everyone and then bring them all on as contractors. And then he would get a giant bonus because he saved them a lot of money by giving them the idea of firing people and bringing them back as contractors.
So you could just eat people like that. And
Yeah,
like the problem solves, it's like I feel like evolutionarily speaking, we should be able to realize this is not sustainable for the species.
it's not. And something's got to give. And this is why we have like partially why we have like a boom bust cycle, right? Where we have like giant economic booms and then it just can't sustain itself. It happened in 2008, 2009 with the housing crisis. We had
So
this,
we'll just keep on doing this every 10, 15 years. It'll be fine. The
it'll
bottom
be
of the
great.
boat definitely won't fall out one of these times.
Yeah. And so that's what in 2008, 2009, there were a lot of different factors. But one of the major factors was like they just were giving loans to everyone, just creating this huge market. The housing prices were crazy, kind of like right now. And then the bubble popped and everyone lost their mortgages and it was terrible. And I'm worried that something like that's going to happen in the gaming industry where in the 1970s, early 1980s, the video game market was basically dead because they had so much shovelware and so much bad publicity with shitty games being released for the Atari like 2600 and 7800, or I'm sorry, the 50, what was it, the 2600, the 5200, and then the 7800 released later. But so much shovelware that it killed the market for like 5 or 6 years before Nintendo brought it back. So thank you, Nintendo, I guess.
I wish I could propose like a super easy solution for the gaming industry in the whole. And
You
I
can't.
think what it is stop trying to turn your games into vending machines. And how do you do that without having a Larian Studios budget?
Yeah.
Fuck, man. You gotta like cut down your expenses. There's
Yeah.
like for as much as we complain about that video games are expensive to make, they are also easier to make now than ever before. And we
Mm-hmm.
know this to be true because the indie market is booming in a way that it's never boomed before.
Yeah.
If
And
that means we need to have more indies, more like retro style games because it's just not feasible to make these AAA budget titles, okay.
yeah, and to your point, like a lot of game studios, like Microsoft owned game studios, now they have the pressure of like we need to make a AAA game Or like with Skull and Bones, where
Oh,
Ubisoft was like, "Oh, this is actually a quadruple A game," and it came out and it was shit. Like you sometimes like you don't have to throw everything into a game. You don't have to have the best graphics or the most complex systems. You can just have a game that's fun to play. And like Helldivers. Helldivers is a good game, not the most complex game that I've ever played in my life. Not honestly not the most graphically impressive game I've ever played in my life.
no, and it really doesn't like if we're gonna pull that argument, I'm going to continue to say that majority of the games that I continue wanting to go back and play are from the late 90s to early thousands. Like
Yeah.
I will go out of my way to play anything from an Earthbound to a Morrowind just because I'm so much more engaged with that than play for 3 minutes because the TTK indicator or whatever the metric for what's supposed to be fun these days is going to be like instantaneous gratification. Like I'm gonna describe it as junk food. Like it's nothing nowadays is really satisfying to play, even if it's smoother to play. Like
Well,
older games, you have to grind or there's bullshit to go through. I would happily go through that instead of being like, oh, well, here's a battle pass.
I was just thinking, and I was thinking this before the podcast. Do you remember like the dark days, like 2008 to like 2015,
Talking about
where
horse armor DLC.
well, no, like there was just like no innovation in games. Like it was just we got lots of pretty like more pretty and pretty games releasing, but like actual good games releasing that like stand the test of time were pretty few and far between.
I hear what you're saying. There's definitely a gap in like games worthy of somebody's backlog from that period.
Yeah, I mean you have games like Portal 2 that came out, but again, that was like pretty like few and far between, and a lot of them were just like the brown like cover shooters or Call of Duty. And I am happy that like right now, like games are coming out that are good. Like
And like I said at the beginning of the show, I'd be hard pressed to find a game that I'm actually excited about that's coming out. And I
yeah,
think Helldivers 2 is more of an oddity than a planned thing as far as the industry is concerned.
well,
Like
same
there
thing.
still is an issue right now, but we
Yeah,
are definitely being more innovative. I'll definitely give you a point on that.
yeah. Well, like and Baldur's Gate 3, like that game came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And
definitely. People definitely knew that they were working on it. Like I remember, I feel like it was like 10 years ago seeing that initial trailer where the city's getting bombed. Like,
yeah.
and then we just didn't hear about it for a decade.
And then they were just like, you know what? We're gonna spend all of our money on this game. Well, it'll be fine. We'll spend all of it, all the money.
Honestly, look how it worked out for them though.
It worked out beautifully. But yeah, so thank you, Phil Spencer, for saying that capitalism sucks, but capitalism does suck. Um, he does say here, well, the last thing we'll read before we head off for the day. It says, I don't get the luxury of having to run a profitable, growing business inside of Microsoft, but just across the industry, sitting here at GDC, I reflect on friends of mine in the industry that have been displaced and lost their jobs, and just how just I don't want this industry to be a place where people can't, with confidence, build a career. So that's why I keep pivoting back to how does this industry get back to growth? So I I understand his part where it's like, yeah, capitalism sucks, but also I have a lot of friends in the industry and I want them to be able to like do what they want to do with the games and create games. Cause I mean, and personally, I have friends that I've seen in the last 6 or 7 years go from studio to studio to studio because they keep getting contract jobs. Or I had a couple friends who worked on Halo Infinite, and once that game was released, they were released.
Yeah, I remember
And
that too. It's like they went straight to Skeleton Crew. We have
mhm.
the innovators, the artists who are making the new content that we could sell for 10.99 each month, and the rest of you guys, good luck.
Yeah, and so now they're at different studios. But as I said, I've since seen one of those friends complain on Facebook that she doesn't want to just sit there and fix AI generated hands all day. Like she wants to actually create
Yeah.
art.
I also get that too, as far as an industry that is changing how they go about, like, there are shortcuts that are going to become standard practice that are not going to be satisfying for really anyone involved, and we're just going to do it anyways until those games inevitably fail.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, you said we're in a golden age of gaming right now. I think it's going to be a short-lived one.
probably. But I will say that AI still do really bad at creating hands. If you scroll up a bit in the AI image generator chat that I have on my Discord, it's not good.
Yeah, I'm in a Discord chat for the boys that I play Helldivers with,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a similar AI bot that's been going. It like I'm glad that the issue that AI has is also the same issue that people have. Like, man, drawing hands is really hard, isn't it?
It really is. It really hands and eyeballs, really really difficult. But I want to thank you for being here today, Connor.
That was all you had.
You're the only one I could get, and next time I'll just get an AI generated Aroa. It'll be fine. And I've been
I
hmm?
Now the real question here, and this is something for the audience to think about as we go here. Would an AI Aroa be as unhinged as Aroa, or would it just be like, no, I am normal Aroa?
I don't know. I will have to figure it out. I'm not
Tune
sure
in
that.
next week when Chat GPT replaces Aroa for a day.
Oh, that would be awful. Thank you for being here. We will be back next week talking some more tech and podcast game stuff. Bye.
Goodbye.